Today's scripture lesson is from Psalm 91, verses 1 through 10. You who live in the shelter of the Most High, who abide in the shadow of the Almighty, will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and buckler. You will not fear terror at night, or arrow that flies by day, or pestilence that stalks in darkness, or destruction that wastes at noonday. Even if 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only look with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked. Because you have made the Lord your refuge, the Most High your dwelling place, no evil shall befall you, no disaster come near your tent.
So, dear friends, this is another worship from our Avian series about birds. Avian means flying, birds in the air. And this Sunday I wanted to preach about eagles. We probably all know that in the Bible there are those beautiful and powerful images comparing God to an eagle, and here I'll ask Peter to show us the picture of an eagle. Of course, I did not take this picture in an alien country or alien planet. You see that the sky is rather purplish. That is simply a limitation of our current system. And that's why we are getting the new one, and you see the virus here and there and everywhere. Hopefully, with a new system, the sky would look more like sky. But here is an eagle from upstate New York. And seeing an eagle in flight is indeed a majestic, noble sight. But that image in the Bible is not just self-serving, like just about majesty and nobleness. Just like God, our God is not self-serving or self-preoccupied. Eagle is in the Bible to be compared to God and highlight divine, loving, nurturing care. Loving, protecting, defending her nest and nurturing her young. And of course, the first text which came to my mind was the Psalm 91, part of which we heard. It is about protection under the divine wings. And God highly popularized through 1970s religious pop song on eagle's wings. And it is actually in our hymnal, and we will be singing it soon. So I thought, yeah, Psalm 91. I opened the Bible, started to read this psalm, starting with my exegesis like 2 weeks ago. Reading it in Hebrew, and that's of course what Presbyterian ministers should do, reading in the original texts in Greek and Hebrew. But sometimes this kind of approach complicates things, substantially complicates things. So I realized this psalm is rather complex, complicated, but also hidden gem, forgotten treasure, taking us back and deep into the past, to the roots of our faith, and to the foundations of our fears and hopes. In our biblical reading, therefore, I had to take out a number of definite articles. I don't know whether you noticed when Sarah was reading it, but we were taking one even as we were preparing for this worship, because either I forgot to take it out, or Janira, being trained by me, was simply putting articles back. I'm Slav, and Slavs love to just not pay attention to definite and indefinite articles. I do it all the time. But here I did it on purpose. I took out articles from before: pestilence and destruction and terror of night and even arrow. I took out those articles and I capitalized these words in the reading, because those were originally names, and we don't put articles before names. And those original names, not translated, are listed in the bulletins in parentheses. So there is Deber and Qeteb and Pachat Laylah. Those are all well-known names of gods, minor deities, or demons if you want, malevolent, sinister deities of destruction and desolation, pestilence, plague, epidemic, disease. And we have difficulties of figuring out what exactly, but we know this much. Even the flying arrows there are standing for a divine archer, like I talked with children. He was called Resheph, god of war and plague, shooting his poisonous, deadly darts all around. And reading it, I reconsidered in this psalm, and I realized it actually relates to our time quite timely, unfortunately. I saw or heard in it our experience with COVID pandemic and its seemingly unending waves of different variants. An epidemic of MPX. You know what MPX is? Mpox. That is kind of an attempt to have more culturally concerned and respectful or way of talking about monkeypox. But even poliovirus and illness rising from it is appearing again just north of our city. I realized those are our Deber, Qeteb, and Pachat Laylah, and Resheph. Sneaky, unpleasant, painful, sudden, debilitating, if not outright deadly. Of course, I do not believe in any malevolent deities or demons. In my family, I have 5 medical doctors just in the closest family and more medical professionals. So, you know, I know about germs. Don't get me wrong. But I am a pastor at the same time and a theologian. And there is a theological reason, there is a merit for speaking about these malevolent demons in the Bible and even for ourselves. One is practical. Just think about those ancient people without theory of germs or any kind of knowledge of microscopes or anything like that. They were excellent in observation and deduction. And so they realized that there has to be some invisible agents flying through the air predominantly. And I think that they were quite right when you think about it. And they personalized that. Of course they did. I did that just moments ago when I spoke about polio and said that it is rising its ugly head in our suburbs. That's a personalization also, without actually seeing it as deity. But there is also a moral reasons for it, because it addresses our feelings and our relationships. I can approach it this way. Why bad things happen to good people? It might not be people's fault, or anyone's fault, or certainly not directly. That is this theory of those demons flying around, telling us. The victim might be just at the wrong time in the wrong place. That's it. You know, if you think about that shooting, you know, I was talking about. So don't blame. Blame game is here wrong way of approaching it. People got hit, transfixed by Resheph, that demon of pestilence, and his flying poisonous darts. That's that moral dimension. I think it is quite valid when dissected this way. And then there is also a theological reason behind it, or theological point I would like to lift up. It puts distance between misfortunes or our bitter and bad experiences of suffering and God. Yahweh, our God, is not the source or cause of suffering and pain. That is caused by those other agents. Back then they called them demons or minor deities. Nowadays we have different names for it. But definitely it puts that distance in between God and what is happening to us or our loved ones. That is surprisingly sophisticated approach when you think about it. Quite well-rounded. Solid. Theologically, from my perspective, I would swear by it. It is a thoughtful theology and thoughtful approach to life. And it prepared us to seek refuge under the divine wings. We are returning now back. We are returning back to that original image which triggered that, of those spread out wings of eagle from the Psalm 91. But friends, in Friday message, I talked about it. The exact bird is never mentioned in Psalm 91. It is being surmised for being an eagle. And we saw that eagle earlier. I took by Bear Mountain here in the Hudson Valley. But in Hebrew language, that word is here used for describing these kind of birds. Not used in Psalm 91, but elsewhere, yes. It is called nesher in Hebrew. But when you really look closely into this name, and I did that in Friday message, it is almost certainly a large kite, large bird of prey, but most likely vulture or condor. Peter, can you show us turkey vulture? Yes. It's about the same size like eagle, even larger. They are, of course, more common than eagles because they just feast on carrions, and so there are many more. They have food more available to them. They don't need to hunt it. And in the Middle East, I went and researched it. I never really ever seen condor myself. There are some lucky people who did. There are very few in America and in United States, I mean, in California. And in South America, there are some. But in Middle East are called cimarros vultures, equivalent to American condors, and their wingspan is 10 feet. Just imagine 10 feet. It can really cover you, 10 feet. More than cover you. While that Eastern imperial eagle has only 7 feet. So condors and vultures are always more impressive and larger birds than eagles. But not only that, but biblical references are also mentioning things which clearly point away from eagle and more to vultures. Vultures soar higher and are more impressive birds. They are behind ancient imagery, starting in ancient Egypt and going through Babylonia into ancient Persia. But we can start with ancient Egypt. From Thebes, we have, winged solar disk. That was an image of God in Thebes. Of course, in Egypt, they worshipped the sun. And so both sun and soaring big bird are observing everything from up above, from up high, truly everything under the sun. And during the night, at least the sun was believed to go underneath the earth and appearing on the other side. So the sun, and with it, this winged sun, observed everything which is to be observed under the dome sky and underneath in netherworld. Understanding and represents the broadest knowledge and understanding. We can turn it off again. And so sun, because of its knowledge and understanding, was asked to bring medicine and healing and justice. It is present in the Bible exactly in that constellation, in the prophecy of Malachi. In your Pew Bibles, it'll be chapter 4, verse 2. In all other Bibles, it'll be 3:20. For you who revere my name, the Son of Righteousness shall rise with healing in its wings. That has been, of course, in Christian theology applied to Christ. God's protection and care is shown in the knowledge and understanding with the Son of Righteousness and healing in its wings. God, in the form of a divine winged sun, can be translated and interpreted today by taking seriously the understanding of modern medicine. For instance, in vaccines, like I talked with our children, those are our modern pinions and 11 feet wide wings giving us protection. And of course, more is the divine care and love present in Jesus Christ. But in the biblical times, in the time of psalmist and prophet, the most common and prominent was the Persian iconography. And here I'll ask for another image. Yes. That is Faravahar. It's quite common throughout the Persian iconography. That is a Persian supreme god, good god, Ahura Mazda, sometimes intertwined with Yahweh in tradition back in ancient times. And here he is on a winged sun. And he is in grandeur of peace, harmony, and justice. We can turn it off. Knowing about Persian towers of silence and their practice of sky burials. Those were those who, they took those who passed away and offered them on tall towers to birds. This image also represents what is known in mythology and psychology as psychopompos or psychopompos or psychopomp. Psychopomp, that means the person who is carrying, accompanying a soul, a guide of a soul. And here in the psalm, and together with that in the prophecy of Malachi, God as a large bird of prey offers this powerful motherly protection, but also an ultimate protection and guardian and guide to souls, to our souls. Friends, I did not want to preach about eagles or vultures' wings, frankly. I so much prefer small birds, warblers and finches and hummingbirds. These are frightening and threatening, big birds. I'm intimidated and scared by large birds like vultures or ospreys. I photograph them, of course, but after all, I'm also thankful I took that challenge of seeing God as an eagle or as a vulture, without that preconceived or cultural pre-understanding, because I understand that when you say in English vulture, it has all the wrong associations. It's simply a big kite, big bird. Those 10 feet wide embrace of protection. God on the sunlit eagle's wings is a patron of knowledge, justice, protection, healing, and ultimate guardian and protector of souls.